How the U.S. Stole Hawaii, a historical humans production. Hawaii, the Aloha State, paradise of the Pacific, islands of Aloha, the 808 State, the 50th and most recent state to become part of the United States of America. This archipelago, located 2,000 miles from the U.S. mainland in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, was once a thriving kingdom. This begs the question, how did the U.S. steal Hawaii? The island chain was settled by Polynesians who used their great seafaring technologies to cross the Pacific over 1,000 years ago, sometime between 1000 and 1200 CE. It remained home to numerous smaller chiefdoms until the arrival of British explorer James Cook in 1778. He was the first non-Polynesian to visit the islands. This initial British exploration is still commemorated on the Hawaii state flag to this day in the form of the Union Jack being presented at the top left-hand corner of the flag. This began a trade network that eventually led to a large influx of European and American explorers and traders to the island. This increase of settlers, like most other areas of the New World, led to a large amount of the indigenous population to die. Many perished from diseases such as smallpox, tuberculosis, typhoid fever, and measles, to name a few. This led to the decrease of the population from an estimated 300,000 to 1 million down to less than 400,000 by 1890. Hawaii was unified as a kingdom in 1810, but peace did not last. It was during the Kamehameha dynasty that relations between the Hawaii and the USA went from trading economic partners to a colony/overseas territory. In 1846, U.S. Secretary of State John C. Calhoun formally recognized Hawaii's independence on behalf of then U.S. President John Tyler. This led to Hawaii signing treaties with major nations of the world. Sugar was the main export crop from Hawaii. Since Cook's initial exploration, the first permanent plantations were created on Kauai when William Hooper leased 980 acres of land from the Crown and began growing sugarcane. Hawaii proved to be one of the best locations for the cultivation of sugarcane, and sugar plantations began popping up all over the island chain. Eventually, American-led plantation owners began demanding representation within the kingdom's political system due to the amount of money that was being paid towards the taxes of the island and the taxes directly to the royal family. The foreign settlers also began demanding land tenure and eventually private land ownership. The king at the time, Kamehameha III, helped draft the new Bill of Rights, then known as the 1839 Constitution of Hawaii, that attempted to guarantee that Native Hawaiians would not lose their lands and laid the groundwork for a free enterprise system. However, this ended up having a reverse effect when the missionaries kept lobbying for privatized land ownership. This came to a head when the Great Mahale was enacted that privatized land and ended up with many Native Hawaiians losing their lands, especially because during this period, Native Hawaiians did not have much a sense of private land ownership, and eventually property taxes took away the land of many others. In a desire for equal taxation and tariffs, Kamehameha sought reciprocity with the United States, who paid significantly less import tariffs going into Hawaii than Hawaiian goods going to the U.S. A proposal for reciprocity died in the Senate in 1854. However, once the United States wanted something, a deal was forged. In 1873, a military commission suggested obtaining Ford Island, a minor island in Pearl Harbor, in exchange for a tax-free importation of sugar to the U.S. The sale of one of Hawaii's harbors was suggested by American Charles Reed Bishop, who had married into the Hawaiian royal family and quickly rose through their Hawaiian ranks to become the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Due to increased American interests and military presence on the island, a number of indigenous Hawaiian rebellions occurred, attempting to stave off the colonial expansionist United States. It was by this point that the Queen of Hawaii traveled the island searching for answers and opinions as to how to approach the situation. She ended up with the conclusion that a new constitution must be drafted that restores power in the monarchy over the legislature, where American business elites held disproportionate amounts of power. These foreign agents saw the threat to their power in operation and began to devise a way to overthrow the monarchy. In 1893, the coup d'etat began. It started with the newspaper publisher of American descent, Loren Thurston, and American lawyer Henry E. Cooper. They gained support from the American and European business class that lived in Hawaii. Most of the conspirators were U.S. and European citizens who were also subjects of the kingdom. They were legislators, government officers, and even a Supreme Court justice. The revolution began when John Good shot a native policeman who was attempting to stop a wagon full of weapons that was being brought to Loren Thurston. They armed a force of non-native men and then waited across the street from the royal palace awaiting the Queen's response. Later that day, Henry Cooper addressed the crowd in front of the royal palace that formally disposed of the Queen, abolishing the monarchy and establishing a new government under President Sanford B. Dole. If the Dole name sounds familiar, think of the fruit company, and you can imagine why. This hostile takeover of a foreign country was a half-baked idea, as when the Queen was formally disposed, it left the island vulnerable to imperial powers, especially as it was left without any formal military. However, due to large American interests, calls for annexation to the United States began to arise. The U.S. government then eventually dispatched 162 sailors and Marines from the USS Boston to respond to threats to non-combatant American lives and property. President Grover Cleveland called for an investigation into the overthrow, where it was determined that United States diplomatic and military representatives had abused their authority and were responsible for the changing government. Minister Stevens was recalled and forced to resign. Cleveland also called for the Queen to be reinstated. However, new Hawaii President Sanford Dole flatly refused the demands. Pro-annexation congressmen, chaired by John Tyler Morgan, initiated their own report to discredit the previous report, except this time using pro-annexationist affidavits and testimony. Eventually, in 1993, on the 100th anniversary of the coup, the U.S. offered an apology to Native Hawaiians on behalf of the U.S. government. This law is known as the Apology Resolution and is one of the very few times the U.S. government has ever apologized for its actions. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to check out the Humanitarian Collections down below. It's our web store that helps support the Trevor Project currently. And if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to share it with all of your Hawaiian friends. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.